There's a very big moment at the end where Loki steps through that portal. From your perspective, what is going through Loki's mind when he looks back at Mobius and then decides to go through the door anyway? Is he feeling any remorse there at all?
I think certainly there's conflict. I think Mobius is someone who perhaps for the first time in his life, he thinks he might be able to trust and perhaps trusts him, and he doesn't want to betray that trust. But at the same time, he has to go and see what's going on. He has to, I think he can't help himself but follow because it's too strange and too, provokes so much curiosity within him. So there is a huge conflict there. He thinks, I probably shouldn't do this. Maybe there can be repercussions down the line. But I have to see what that's about.
What is going through Mobius's mind in that moment? Did he expect that on some level? Does he feel betrayed in that moment?
I think he feels betrayed, and having studied his life and sort of knowing everything, you'd feel a little bit foolish also, because you can't ever really be surprised that the god of mischief would be up to something. I think there's a little bit of that, and sort of also maybe well, here we go.
Yeah.
Which Loki line does Tom Hiddleston like the most? Thank you, my friend. I think 4 words I'm not sure he has uttered in his life. Yeah. Thank you, my friend. Which is, of course, what Loki says to Mobius in episode 5. So yeah, I loved saying that. Felt new. Felt like a new chord, something, a new utterance, a new expression for Loki. Glorious Purpose is obviously great, but maybe it was time to change his tune. And what I love about what he did with Mobius is Mobius has been around in the TVA for a while, and he's seen a few interesting characters come through those doors, and so he's kind of emotionally detached from Loki's powers of persuasion. All the sort of Loki's tricks don't work on him, so they're engaged in a really fun game of chess or something, or a battle of wits, where they kind of grudgingly respect each other because they need each other, but they also don't trust each other. And at the same time, it's really nice for Loki that somebody is interested in him because he hasn't been a case for a while. And he feels like he's got someone in the TVA who's kind of checking up on him and maybe beginning to believe in him too. And I love where that relationship goes and how it develops. So yeah, Mobius is very confronting for Loki, because Loki's someone who's used to being in control, and he knows the cards in his hand and how he's going to play them. And I think Mobius is detached, and Loki's a bit confused because his usual tricks and sort of powers of persuasion don't work on Mobius, who seemed kind of rather amused by it. And so Mobius and Loki develop a unlikely and possibly unstable game of trust, really, which is they both realize they need each other, but they're not sure if they can trust each other, which makes it very fun. And Owen himself was just a complete delight. He was so playful and so prepared, and brought so many great ideas, and it was such a new flavor, yeah, for Loki. I think I loved it. Mobius, his character is an analyst at the TVA. He's kind of an academic, and he's curious about Loki, but he's not persuaded by Loki's old tricks. So it's the dynamic between them is this kind of odd couple. They have this odd couple chemistry where they need each other, but they're not sure if they can trust each other. Then you sort of have to see, they're both playing chess with each other, and you see where it goes. But Owen is great, and I can't wait for everybody to see what he does as Mobius. Tom's O'Brien's has asked, how do you view the dynamic between Loki and Mobius's friendship, if you could say there is one? Absolutely there is one. I love Loki and Mobius's friendship. It was something that was really exciting to me as I approached the project and was developing the story. I find it very touching. I think that Mobius in that first episode Loki is a very defensive, very self-isolating, very unattached character. He's got so many defenses. Even his charm and his charisma and his playfulness is a kind of defense. And he arrives in the series and he tries to push people away, whether he knows that or not. And Mobius is very confronting because Mobius is calm and warm and level. And he confronts Loki with something which he's never experienced before, which is a sort of presentation of who he is without judgment and with compassion. And I think everybody else in Loki's life up until that point has been emotionally engaged in this resistance that Loki has. And Mobius has a detachment, which is to say that I see who you are and I don't judge you, and in a way I understand and I have compassion. And they have a lot to learn from each other. And in that moment, Loki has a kind of a moment of real vulnerability at the end of episode 1, and Mobius is able to step up to that moment and meet him there. And they have it ends up being a great rapport. They have an affection for each other and a respect. And then, of course, the tables turn and Loki is able to teach Mobius something about Mobius that he didn't know, which is that Mobius is a variant, and that perhaps somewhere, somehow, when Mobius too had a past and a purpose and a family and a life, and that maybe it involved a jet ski, and that's something that Mobius is awakened to. So somehow, Loki and Mobius' friendship evolves from the fact that they learn a lot from each other, about each other. And I think it's really real. I think there's a lot of love and care and affection there. It's very sincere and presents something new for Loki. I don't think he's ever had a friend before. I really loved it. Well spotted.
The big thing with Loki is that you can't trust him, and I'm sure that came up in all your conversations. So what is it about him? Like, why does Mobius think that he's the guy that can work alongside him? Is it a thing about being able to trust him, or is it certain one-upmanship?
Well, sometimes you can trust not being able to trust someone, and that can actually be a sort of a baseline. And with Loki, that's certainly the way that my character kind of approaches him, is expecting him to be untrustworthy and duplicitous, but knowing all the facts that I know, I'm sort of, in some cases, a couple steps ahead of him, just because I know things about his life that he doesn't even know. And so that gives me a little bit of power.
He is just great. It was one of those things that was meant to be. So he plays Mobius, and Mobius is somebody who is like an academic, and he's an expert in Loki, and he knows more about Loki than Loki. And we have these really amazing long scenes together where Mobius confronts Loki with his true self and almost sees him without judgment and with compassion. It's kind of confronting for Loki because he's normally used to everybody being kind of emotionally involved. Like Thor's gets enraged by Loki, and Odin gets enraged by Loki, and Mobius is like, that's wrong.
Let's talk it out. Exactly right. Yeah.
But it was cool. It was like it was like a game of tennis every time, because we had these long scenes together and used to talk about putting different sort of spin on the ball. And
in the first few episodes, we see how Mobius, he's such a student of Loki in some way, or a professor of Loki. And Loki's so manipulative, and he can see through a lot of that. And I'm curious if Mobius has his own manipulations that he is going to reveal in the show.
I think so. I think that it's sort of an ongoing chess match between Mobius and Loki, and I'm really trying to get him to serve my agenda and the sort of that's a formidable opponent, the god of mischief. So what I have is the weight of the TVA behind me, and also the knowledge of his life that he doesn't have.
Does trust ever develop between them? Because again, the manipulation side of it, do they ever kind of see each other on that level as far as trust?
I think there is sort of an appreciation and sort of grudging respect when you're sort of stuck with someone the way they seem to be with each other, both trying to sort of serve their own agendas.
Your experience with Owen Wilson, it's already evident your chemistry with him is too good in the episodes.
Thank you.
How was it bringing him to MCU and you were the one with him? How was it? How was the experience?
Owen is just fantastic. What I love about the character he plays, Mobius, is all the tricks that Loki uses to manipulate people don't work with Mobius. And so Mobius has got this curiosity and this detachment because he kind of loves Loki, but Loki doesn't want that. Owen himself was so playful, so smart, so clever. He's such a brilliant actor, and we had a really, really good time.
What attracted me to the role of Mobius is when I spoke with the director and Kate walked me through the dynamic that would exist between Loki and Mobius, and it just sounded like something that was kind of interesting, the way it was going to sort of be a little bit of a chess match. And, and are these guys, is it just a business where Mobius is, using Loki? Is there any feeling behind there? It's just, there's kind of interesting nuances to play.